So in our last video about the Age of Apocalypse, we had run over the various factions of the X-Men related groups and their various missions which were assigned to them by Magneto. What we do now is we transition away from all of that and we focus on two other groups. The first group is Jean Grey and Wolverine, and the second group is Nate Grey. Now starting with Wolverine and Jean Grey, as we discussed in our first video, the two were actually a romantic couple, but they're also agents of the Human High Council. We initially pick up with the duo as they're using Sentinels to help ferry humans from North America to England after the group had basically destroyed Apocalypse's Atlantic defense system for the purpose of launching a nuclear strike against Apocalypse in North America. However, what we learn is that there's actually a rogue group of mutants that have made their way and more or less kind of blended into these humans by masquerading as humans themselves. And so what happens here is that these mutants, once they're on the other side, basically begin attacking the weapons depot, which would render the guidance systems and the nuclear weapons themselves absolutely useless. During the conflict, Wolverine realizes that Jean is leaving the area and traveling back to North America, and so in his attempt to try to figure out what it is that she's doing, Wolverine tracks her down, only to learn that Jean's intention is to basically attempt to stop the nuclear attack by warning various groups within North America itself. And so after being given the choice as to either kill Jean Grey or let her go, Wolverine elects to let her leave, resulting in Jean racing to North America as Wolverine basically watches the preparations being made for the nuclear strike against North America and Apocalypse. And so what we do from here is jump to Nate Grey. Now again, in the previous video, we had talked about how Nate Grey was the offspring of Jean Grey and Scott Summers and was created using the genetic material of the two by Mr. Sinister during Jean Grey's time in the breeding pens, although all of this is actually unknown to Nate Grey himself. In addition, Sinister had eventually found Nate Grey and joined his group under the guise of having the desire to destroy Apocalypse and his minions. However, what we find here is that Sinister has actually been subtly manipulating Nate Grey into having a desire to kill Apocalypse personally. And this is actually something that's discovered by Forge, who acts as a kind of father figure to Nate Grey. And so when Forge confronts Sinister about his plans, Sinister simply mortally injures Forge. And so eventually Forge's body is discovered by Nate Grey, and Forge's dying words are to basically instruct Nate Grey to go find Magneto because Magneto will know what to do. But before Nate Grey can actually leave to find Magneto, he's discovered by Sinister, who gives Nate Grey his entire history. What we learn here is that during their time in the breeding pens, Scott Summers and Jean Grey seem to have engaged in a coupling. Now, how it was that Sinister was able to gain the genetic material of Jean Grey and Scott Summers is unknown here, but what we do know is that once the genetic material was gained, that Mr. Sinister basically began the process of trying to find a way to create a clone using the genetic material of the two, which he was successful in doing. But once the clone was made, that Cyclops had basically broken X-Men out of the facility, out of the science facility that was owned by Mr. Sinister. And so from there, it seemed as though X-Men was simply just discovered by Forge. And as a result, Forge just kind of allowed Nate Grey to basically develop his memories, to more or less just kind of come into his own. And so what happens is that due to the culmination of Sinister having killed Forge, due to the fact that Nate Grey had lost so many of his friends, he basically lashes out and actually kills Sinister in the process. And so what happens is Nate Grey basically sets out to try to locate and kill Apocalypse. And so what we're going to find here is that all of these stories, the story of Nate Grey, the story of Wolverine and Jean Grey, the story of Cyclops and the X-Men and Magneto, and all these things are going to culminate in this final issue of the Age of Apocalypse called X-Men Omega, where we'll see this massive battle taking place and presumably the destruction of this entire reality. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.
Yeah, man in the mirror, picking up the pieces of what the people speaking of. A truth balanced out to equal us. Too many gifts in you to keep them tough. Plus your arms long enough to reach enough. Heights measured divided between pleasures. A world full of goblins and ghouls that won't wake up. Pressure too heavy to lift for humanity to get over.